First, let me thank Mother Margaret for the invitation to stand here in this sacred space this morning for the day's homily. This is an unusual privilege and one I deeply appreciate. For the past 5 years, Bethesda-by-the-Sea has been a spiritual oasis for our family, for me and my late wife Betty, our daughter Lisa, who preceded us here, and still more recently her significant other Dan, and our son Stephen is a frequent worshiper via live stream. For being such a welcoming and supportive people of God to us, we are eternally grateful. Demons and the demonic played a major role in Jesus' public ministry and in that of the apostles following their teachers' physical departure from them. The Gospels record a dozen instances of exorcisms of persons who were demon-possessed, including the healing of the unnamed Syrophoenician woman's daughter in today's Gospel reading. Her geographical origin is secondary, however, to her religious background. This woman was a Gentile who, astonishingly, as one commentator has put it, is the only character in Mark who wins an argument against Jesus and in the process teaches him something important about the scope of his ministry. Up to this point in his public ministry, and it is still early in his exposure to the public, Jesus has limited his teaching and preaching to fellow Jews. That appears to be his clear intent for the moment, as the larger context of the passage suggests. Yet this woman, heretofore unknown to him, is bold enough to ask that Jesus cast out the demon that afflicted her daughter, and then argue with him when he proves hesitant. "Let the children be fed first," he answers her, "for it is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." Strange language to our ears, to be sure, although apparently not so much to this clever and determined foreign woman against Jesus' desire to limit his ministry to the Jews, as the same commentator observes. "Sir," she shot back, "even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." A not-so-subtle way of telling the visiting rabbi from Nazareth that even her little daughter is worthy of his attention. Jesus is convinced. For saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. And so it had. So what do we make of these demon possession healings of Jesus? What was their significance in their own time? E. Glenn Hinson, the best teacher I had in seminary, describes the matter in stark terms in a book that resulted from his graduate work at Oxford. "A profound fatalism gripped the minds of most persons in the ancient world," he wrote. "The average person lived in a world teeming with demons, both good and bad. Such beings controlled one's fate. If one drank a glass of water, he or she might swallow a demon and become deathly ill, go insane, or drop dead. The average person searched frantically for ways to get the good demons and powers on their side and to placate the evil. They consulted soothsayers. They employed magicians to compose formulas to ward off evil. They probed the entrails of animals and birds. They carried amulets and magic charms. They entreated the gods with votive offerings. They erected temples and public buildings. Anything to bring a proper balance to the fearful unknown." Hinson makes the case that into this world teeming with demons, Jesus of Nazareth appeared, exercising power over them, healing those possessed by them, and thus instantaneously transforming their lives from fear to freedom. And after Jesus' ascension into heaven, his closest followers, beginning with the apostles, were conferred the same power over demonic forces. Their impact on the Greco-Roman world was nothing less than astounding, as in the space of a mere 3 centuries of the Jesus movement called the Way, Christianity replaced paganism as the prevailing faith of the same common folk who previously had been gripped by that profound fatalism. And what of our own demons? What to say about those undeniably demonic forces that still plague even us moderns? Simone Biles, the undisputed greatest gymnast of all time, spoke openly and forcefully during the recent Olympic Games about the reasons she withdrew from the team competition following a serious mishap on the vault. She had a case of the twisties, she explained afterward, introducing me to a term I'd never heard before, but one apparently known to every gymnast. It has to do with a sudden fear that can grip a gymnast while twisting in the air during a jump or a dismount. Ms. Biles, who I'm quite sure has unknowingly set another world record this summer in the aftermath of the Tokyo Games, that of most mentions of any living person in preacher sermons, then elaborated on what at first seemed her shocking withdrawal. In midair, she said, I found myself fighting all those demons. Diana Nyad, the legendary long-distance swimmer, contributed an opinion piece to the Washington Post in which she confessed to being critical of Biles' decision at first, but then reconsidering. I judged Simone Biles harshly, she wrote. Here's why I was wrong. If the greatest of all time at the Olympic Games that are the supposed and possibly last pinnacle of her career states that she can't trust herself, who are we to say otherwise? Gymnastics events require dangerous, almost unreal maneuvers. Were Biles to go out there lacking confidence, were she to spin out of control, there could be serious consequences. It's not an overstatement to warn that an egregious mistake, whatever the precipitating cause, could result in paralysis. In her own column, Sally Jenkins, one of the finest of sports writers, wrote perceptively of Ms. Biles that the night of her withdrawal was the anniversary of her coming forward, accusing the infamous team doctor, now serving what amounts to a life sentence in federal prison, for sexually assaulting her and dozens of other gymnasts supposedly under his care. This time of year is awful, Simone Biles said. It brings back how hard it was to speak up, to verbalize it all for the first time. This is when it all came out, and the body does keep score. It remembers those times of year and those anniversaries. We all have our demons, do we not? Our language describing them is more sophisticated, and understanding of all kinds of mental illness is ever evolving. Yet we know, do we not, in our heart of hearts, what it is that plagues us, what it is that awakens us in the dead of night, what it is that causes us, in the words of the psalmist, to speak to our hearts in silence on our beds. We Christians know something else as well. We do not confront our demons alone. Before his ascension, Jesus promised his closest followers that although he was about to take leave of them, they would not be forsaken. It is to your advantage that I go away, he told them in his farewell remarks. It is to your advantage that I go away, for if I do not go away, the advocate will not come to you. The advocate, as he called the Holy Spirit, would defend them, pleading their case in the divine docket. Or, to cite another translation of the same word Jesus used, their comforter would console them, no matter the circumstances they were to face. Later, Paul elaborated the theme in the glorious 8th chapter of his letter to the Romans. Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know how to pray as we ought. But that very Spirit intercedes with sighs too deep for words. And God, who searches the heart, knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. So, the next time sleep comes hard, if it comes at all, when your world seems to be collapsing around you, when your own demons assail you, remember this one thing: you are not alone. You are never alone. Your advocate stands with and for you. Your comforter is as near as your next breath.